Never shall innocent blood be shed, yet the blood of the wicked shall flow like a river. The three shall spread their blackened wings and be the vengeful striking hammer of God. You people have been chosen to reveal our existence to the world. You will witness what happens here today, and you will tell of it later. All eyes to the front. You must watch, dear. It'll all be over soon.
Now you will receive us. We do not ask for your poor or your hungry. We do not want your tired and sick.
It is your corrupt we claim.
It is your evil that will be sought by us.
With every breath, we shall hunt them down.
Each day, we will spill their blood till it rains down from the skies.
Do not kill. Do not rape. Do not steal. These are principles which every man of every faith can embrace.
These are not polite suggestions. These are codes of behavior. And those of you that ignore them will pay the dearest cost.
There are varying degrees of evil. We urge you lesser forms of filth, not to push the bounds and cross over into true corruption, into our domain.
For if you do, one day you will look behind you and you will see we three. And on that day, you will reap it.
And we will send you to whatever God you wish.
And shepherds we shall be, for thee, my lord, for thee. Power hath descended forth from thy hand. May swiftly carry out thy command. So we shall flow river forth to thee, and teeming with souls shall it ever be.
In nomine Patri.
Et Filii, Spiritus Sancti.
How far are we going to take this star?
The question is not how far. The question is, do you possess the Constitution? The depth of faith to go as far as is needed?
Hey, Nick.
Hey guys.
How you doing today?
Oh, just another day in paradise, I guess.
I didn't notice this before the show. You might want to close your blinds. The light is in the camera and kind of washing it out.
Is that better, or is it still bad?
It's a little
I
better.
can fix it.
Just the typical stuff there, guys. You know.
Well, where the hell's Steve?
I have no idea. He's been texting us all day, including 5:37. So we figured we'd give him a few minutes, but the show must go on, as they say.
I wouldn't be surprised if he joins us after a while.
Yeah, he will.
I hope he does.
He would have fun with this topic. We were having fun with
I
this
know.
topic in our chat.
Oh, I know.
Okay. Speaking of the topic of today, we're going to talk about intelligence. Now, as you guys know, you're a longtime followers, that we are a fan of IQ as a measure of intelligence. We don't place much stock in the newfangled EQs and social intelligence and all of that.
Oh, the
So-
things that require actual intelligence.
Well, tonight we're going to go, at least for what I have in store. We're going to cover a wide variety of areas of society. We're even going to touch on Sheldon Cooper from The Big Bang Theory. No videos or anything, but we will talk about him.
Nice.
So,
are we going to talk about do you have definitions ready for us about what intelligence and IQ is?
Nick, would I ever leave you guys hanging?
Probably not, knowing you, but I do the same thing. I like to define my terms.
So I'm not going to define intelligence so much as I am going to define the ranks of intelligence, because intelligence is a spectrum and you sit somewhere on it. So we're not
autists are on the spectrum.
Yeah.
Yeah, you knew where I was going with that.
Oh yeah.
Some tweets this week. Yeah.
What? Yeah.
Having standards apparently makes you an autist. Apparently, so
it actually does, but not for the reason you'd think. We're going to get into it. We're going to get into a lot of that tonight. Tonight is less about defining intelligence, although I will do that up front, than it is about looking at. I got to be honest. I'm not that interested in intelligence and average intelligence and below. It's average. There's a lot of it. You're going to have to work around it and with it, and you just need to accept that in your life. But it's average. It is what it is. I want to focus on particularly people who hold themselves out as above average, or even gifted. Is the gifted and genius are the two other terms.
gifted.
One of the things that, what?
Oh, you probably had those classes growing up, or heard about them. Gifted and talented classes.
I never made it that far in school because I was homeschooled. I'm one of those people.
I wasn't.
Yeah, well, homeschooling has its ups and downs. It's not a perfect answer, but there is, and I don't have any stats on it, but there is a correlation between homeschooling and intelligence, because the average school is simply not set up to deal with somebody with an IQ over 130. They're just not. They're not even really capable of dealing with people of an IQ over 120.
Yeah, when they sent me to in-school suspension, I was the most profitable, or that's probably not the best term to use. I was at my best when they just said, "Here, sit here." I had no teacher, just had to read the textbook. And I was like, "This shit is so much easier than the crap that these idiots are trying to teach me in class." Even these, like, supposedly like GT or gifted and talented or honors classes.
One of the hardest things
Do I need these
for
teachers?
one of the hardest things for people to accept, particularly in the average and above average categories, is that the more intelligent you are, the less hand holding you need. You, m- the average person can simply read something. The average person reads something and says this is true. The above average person reads something and says not only is this true, but I can infer a world a small world of facts around it. It is the truly gifted that can take it and create new things with that data. Anyway, so we're going to get into that. We love talking in intelligence, and so as we were doing this, I was building my notes for the show, and I realized that I was just writing a PowerPoint deck, so I actually just formalized it into a bunch of slides. We're going to
Are we
start with
doing a
this.
data dump today?
No, actually, I'm not doing a data dump today.
Damn, I kind of like the
uh,
data dumps.
uh, I like data dumps too because I can put the data in somebody's face and say, argue with me. I dare you. Right. But sometimes you actually have to sit down and make the argument. And we're gonna start with, you guys have seen this before, I'm sure. Our audience has. This is an IQ bell curve. And in IQ, 100 is is mean average. Okay, it is
So is this
mean.
both sexes? Is this both
Uh,
sexes
yeah,
together?
this is for all humanity. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
If we were talking about both an individual sex, the men tend to more have what we call fatter tails. So each side, the 55 and the 145 would be fatter, and the 100 middle would be lower. Whereas with women, the tails would be thinner and the middle would be taller. That taller middle is called leptokurtosis, if you want a big fancy word. And the fatter tails are called platykurtosis. And this chart is what they call mesokurtosis.
Somebody came
The-
prepared.
I actually picked those words up from trading because as an options trader, we make all our money in leptokurtosis. So when options are fat tail priced, they're expensive, and it's not a great place to make money. But leptokurtosis is where all the money's made. So, but it's options use the same bell curve distribution. And so what you can see here is there's a range. We use a 15-point standard deviation, and 68% of all humanity fits within one standard deviation of mean. So 85 to 115, that is most of humanity. Now, we can parse that down a little finer on the basis of outcomes and whatnot. And on the next page, we're going to do that. But I want you guys to really drill this into your head. Okay. I have a tweet here, and we can do some simple math. There are about 335 million Americans in the United States, 335 million people in the United States. The United States' average IQ is like 98 or 99. So it's close enough to the mean that we can do this math. Do you see the 130 on the right-hand side of the screen there?
Yeah.
It says 2%. 2% of all Americans are gifted or higher. They're either gifted or genius. In terms of how many people that actually is, it's about 6.7 to 7 million people, depending on how you count things. If you go 145 and greater, which is genius, that is 335,000 people. That's it. 335. That's it. The chances of a person in the green block even interacting with somebody with 145 are extremely small. Remember, you're talking about 0.1% of the entire U.S. population.
So I have multiple people in my family that fit that 145 plus, and depending on the test, I might. I always fluctuate between 130 and that. So sometimes I'm 130, sometimes I'm a little higher. So
there's a special note that I have to put on here. If you test at 130 or 70, okay. So if you test at 130 or 70, they don't have you have to go take a specialized test to actually figure out what you are. Okay. Because the standard test breaks down at 130. It doesn't model that person. And so there's actually a different test you go take. A common example would be the Mensa test.
Okay.
That is a test that is specifically designed to determine whether or not you meet Mensa's genius qualification. Okay. So most tests will top out somewhere around 130 to 140, and they'll say, you're just up there somewhere. Okay.
That explains it a lot. Okay.
Right. So that is a key point to understand, is that that high up, it takes a specialized set of tests, and you can go get them, but you have to seek them out. So, but the chances of so I have a few people in my family who are also in that 145, 150 range. But the thing to understand is these people tend to be cloistered into enclaves, for lack of a better term. They are going to be your physicists. They're going to be your right. And so they're going to be that type of person. So you're going to find them in congregating around places like universities, high-end corporates that do, high-end science. Defense contractors have a lot of them on staff because they have to be out at the cutting edge.
Sounds about right.
Yeah,
that sounds about right.
Yeah, well,
you're describing my family.
Need them. Right, they need that. But so the odds of the average person ever even being interacting with these people is actually really low. Okay.
Okay.
So it is far more likely that you're going to interact with somebody who is 110 to 120. These are people you interact with quite routinely. They make up something like 20% of the population. It's actually quite a large number. 1 in 5 people you meet is going to fall into that category. So, like you have met somebody in that range. And I call this the tyranny of the bell curve, because it doesn't sound like a lot to go from 120 to 145, but you go from 1 in 5 people to literally 1 in a million. Right. Okay. So on to the next one here. I hesitated to put these words on there because they are mildly censored words, but they are the technical definition. So I just won't say them.
Right.
Under an IQ under 50 is almost always associated with physical brain trauma. Okay. Now, physical trauma can mean a couple of things. Genetics, and I'm talking about like Down syndrome here, is a form of physical brain trauma. Okay. It is something that physically happened to your body that causes your IQ to be this low. Okay. For the most part, these people are some of the happiest people you will ever meet because they don't know any better, and that's actually really cool. I've been around. I grew up around a Down syndrome kid, not in my family, but a family we knew. He's just the happiest kid you've ever met, you know, and doesn't have a harmful thought in his mind. It's great.
Oh yeah, I had one that was used to be a family friend till that asshole betrayed me. But his father, pastor. Oh, you're
Yeah.
bad, man. Anyways, yeah, he was one of my best friends, but his son was Down syndrome, and the kid had a smile on his face all the time.
Yeah.
I'd show up, he'd show me his birthday cards and his collections, and he'd point and laugh, and it was just this kid had no worry in the world. He knew he was loved, he was happy. Yeah.
Yeah. But the key point here is that it is usually something physically wrong with them. It's not that's not a bad thing. We also see this in people with severe brain injuries. And there is a point here is that it is possible to induce a loss of IQ. You can lower your own IQ either by brain trauma or through drugs, alcohol, etc. Okay.
Football.
Football absolutely lowers IQ. It absolutely does.
I'm one of them. Just imagine what it would be without. Yeah, got a big scar there and everything. So
yeah. So it's okay. That's one of them. So now anybody can do this to themselves of any IQ. The next level up is mild and borderline. These people can take care of themselves. They can be trained to do that because most of taking care of yourself is rote activity. You brush your teeth the same time, the same way, et cetera, et cetera. They are, yeah, more or less. This would be that group. They are employable in routine jobs, but they require constant supervision. Okay. So you can teach them how to, plug a, cable into a motherboard or something like that. Right. And it's okay. No, you just plug this in here, but you have to keep checking them. Okay. Oh, there's Steve.
Oh, old man wisdom showing up. Hey, put your microphone in front of your face, Steve.
We will let him add himself to the conversation when he's all got himself all set up. So this IQ range, again, these people tend to be very happy. Hey, Steve, how you doing?
Yeah, it's just fucking around with other things. I'm here.
Were you stuck on the pot? Were you stuck on the pot?
No. I was actually listening to the Andrew Wilson debate. Yeah. This would be much better. Go ahead.
I was gonna say you gave us up for an Andrew. I don't know. I feel insulted now, Steve.
Time just got away from me. Okay, don't take it personally.
Boomer moment.
Boomer moment. Okay, so again, these people tend to be pretty happy-go-lucky. They're pretty nice people. You're not going to have much problem with them. 80 to 89. This is where we start to get serious. You know lots of these people. They can function independently. They can perform routine tasks without supervision. They don't, you know, they can they in society they look normal, if a little bit airheaded would be the way I would put it. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot going on, but you know, if you just met them, they would appear normal. However,
Plus, like your typical American dumb female,
well,
the airhead
well,
female
well,
that you
remember,
encountered in high school.
women tend towards the mean here of 100.
This is towards
so,
the mean. That's what I'm saying. This is towards the
okay,
mean, but
okay.
kind of airheaded, you know?
The other interesting thing about this group is that they are the most associated with violence group out of all of them. There was a study done at one of the prisons. Yeah, there was a study done at one of the prisons in California. This is back in the 50s or 50s, I think, where they just gave IQ tests to all the prisoners. And there were, and this includes even the people you would consider like, you know, high functioning sociopaths and whatnot. They all fit into this category. There were a few outliers, you know, like 105s, 110s, but almost all of your prison population fits in this 80 to 90 range.
I thought the 120 range was sociopathy.
No, we're going to get into that.
No, hold on. I need to admonish Nick here.
Oh, damn it.
He jumped on and said, oh, 80 to 89, that's women. He hasn't even heard all the options yet. And he's putting them in there. You know what, Nick? Be patient. Wait till the next categories and before you make up your mind.
Yeah, it doesn't get better for women after this. I'd have to go dig it up. I wasn't able to find it in time for this for the show tonight, but it was a study done in a California prison of just it wasn't like a supermax or anything like that. It's just a standard. You're here for 5 to 10 years because you did something of moderate levels of violence.
Man, they actually got caught and convicted. That's surprising.
Well, remember, this is 1950s California when California wasn't locked. So
okay.
So that's 80 to 90. 90 to 109, 110. This is your tradesman. You know, carpenters.
No hate there.
What? Oh, no hate here.
No hate there.
No. That's what I said. Average people are just that. They're average. They're you know, I don't really have a problem with them. They're just average.
Yeah. Glad to have them.
But you know, okay, Nick, you were talking about women. Can perform routine tasks without supervision. Does this not sound like every government functionary you've ever come across?
Yeah.
Huh.
DEI.
Okay. So your average they can take on some limited theory education. So they are capable of they can have a model of the world that is more than simply just the precise here and now. The high you're going to hear the term high time preference, low time preference. That's going to come up. These people are capable of operating in a limited low time preference fashion. Okay.
So the percentage wise of the population, this 90 to 109, 60% of the population falls in this category?
It is
68.
Well, no, 68's a little bit further. So this is a slightly different breakdown that I'm doing.
Yeah.
But it's going to be pretty close to 60% of the population lives here.
Wow, I got that right. And I even tuned in late after seeing that and not seeing that chart. Wow.
It's almost like you've talked about and studied this before.
It's like I'm an engineer and I'm pretty good at estimating.
So yeah, the vast majority of people you meet will be between 90 and 110. And this is fine. Where things get a little troublesome is in the 110 to 129 range. This is your college educated class. And most people think the term midwit refers to 100. No, it does not.
No.
Midwit refers to this range right here. In the Old English, and Nick, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but a wit was somebody of intelligence. Okay.
Correct.
So
They had their wits about them.
yeah, exactly. So a midwit is somebody of middling intelligence. They are not gifted. They are not intelligent. They are not genius. They are of middling intelligence. Okay.
Okay, I'm going to correct you here. You said college educated. Yeah,
Everybody's
Kind
college
of.
educated these days.
kind of. But, okay, social workers,
Chards.
criminal, what's criminal justice, sociology,
Steve?
women's studies. Okay,
I'm about to turn
you
this
can
off.
get
I'm
college
already.
degrees in college, but I'm not putting them in this category.
Okay, Steve, I actually have some data for you. I actually have some.
Oh, are you going to prove me wrong?
They've actually done studies on this. Here you go.
Like, yeah, that's oh fuck. I can't. I'm sorry. Excuse my language, but I can't
Okay.
make it out. It's like 6-point font.
I know, and I can't make it any bigger. It's literally fighting me.
Early childhood
to zoom.
education. I missed that one. Man, is that the bottom one?
It's about
Social work.
105 IQ.
Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, elementary education. Those are down there.
So
Special education.
110 is right about here. This is 120, and this is 130, way up here. Most
Dang, all
of
my
your
stuff's like 120, but I did that on purpose.
oh no, these are the averages per degree, right? So there's
Except for
people in there-
philosophy, that's closer to what I did.
right? Okay, this is actually based on IQ tests of people who were taking different degrees. So, and on the bottom is, of course, the female to male ratio. Males on the left, females on the right. This also proves out the leptokurtic model of female intelligence, where they tend towards the middle. And oh look, female dominated stuff is all down here in the leptokurtic area. So the data is proving itself out in multiple directions. Now, if we want to talk about the dumbing down of schools, that's a different conversation, right?
Right.
And I absolutely agree with you on that. But what I was actually really trying to say is that 110 to 130 is they tend to do jobs that typically require some sort of college education.
Okay. I knew. You know, we like to quibble about things we agree on.
Well, but I got to bring up one
do.
of my. Steve, you got me to bring up one of my data points that one of my other graphs that I was going to use anyway. So, Steve walked right into my trap.
Okay.
It's a trap. Evasive maneuvers.
Well, but the other point of this is only the upper end of that range is capable of independent analysis. Okay. So your 110s are still going to be very much in the rote sort of memorization. They can do, remember, even your 95s and 105s, they can do theory work, your 110s, your 115s, they're going to be able to do more. They're going to be able to generate theories. Okay. Now, and we'll get into this as we move along, there are pretty severe limitations on what they can do, and it shows up in what they put out. But this is so that's that we call that the midwit range, and we are going to focus primarily on these people tonight. And of course, above 130, that 130 to 140 or 145, depending on the definition you use, that's called gifted. And then 140 to 145 plus is genius. All of these people are capable of rational higher order thinking. And by higher order, I mean not just if, then, or, if this, then that, but, what are the second order consequences? What are the third order consequences? Right? These are, they tend to see a whole, well, okay. So there's a comment and I want to address it because it's a good one. As someone with an 134 IQ on the Weiss scale, IQ is not a good measure of intelligence. The test says I'm smart, but I'm still quite a bit dumber than most. Def, that is called Dunning-Kruger.
Great comment.
It's a fascinating comment because it's a corollary of Dunning-Kruger, where the smarter you are, the less intelligent you feel, because you are capable of pulling in so much more information, and you look around at the world and go, oh, I learned this thing, and then you can integrate it into your existing knowledge set. Okay.
And then like, holy shit, there's so much I don't know. I feel like an idiot.
Okay.
And I said this in a text to our group. The more I know and the more I learn, the more I realize what I don't know. And what I don't know is always greater than what I know. So, yeah,
that was
exactly what is said here is true of intelligent people. Because as you move up, you realize there's more you don't know than you know. Go ahead, Nick.
So when I was a pastor, this was a common refrain I use, not based on hearing other people, just from my own experience. And people looked at me like, "Oh, you know so much." I'm like, "No, you don't understand. The more I delve into something, the more cognizant I am of all those who have gone before me that were really intelligent as well, or perhaps more intelligent than I was. The more the deeper I dug, the more I knew I didn't know. And whatever I produced, I felt insufficient. Even though it's probably above so many other people's heads that they're like, what the hell? How do you think that's insufficient? Okay.
Def, you don't realize it, but you've actually put your hand up, and now you are going to be my my target audience for the rest of this episode, because not only what you're describing here is Dunning-Kruger, but very specifically, the midwits have gaslit you into thinking that that IQ is not a good measure of intelligence. And most people need IQ to not be a good measure of intelligence so that they can claim that the person who is higher than them on the scale is still inferior to them. And this is a very midwit tactic, and we are going to dive into this tonight. But what the message for people like Def tonight is that no, you are not dumber than most people. You have been gaslit into believing that you are, by people who need you to believe that you are dumber than they are.
Let me say something else. This is maybe a self-serving comment, But the three of us on this stream are pretty smart guys. So we don't resonate with a lot of the population. If you're one of our subscribers and enjoy listening to us, that in itself is a screening that says, yeah, you're well above average in your intelligence. Because if you weren't, we wouldn't resonate, or we would irritate you and you wouldn't listen.
I have
This
a
is
tweet
fun
from,
for me. Let me say something real quick.
Go ahead.
Not to poop on anybody's parade. This is I really like our Wednesdays because every you know what it's like not dealing with intelligent people throughout every freaking day. And then on Wednesdays, I get to nerd out. I
Well,
love it.
Nick, you work in the court system, which is full of 90 IQ women. So I'm not surprised to hear you say that at all.
Or highly functioning to like 120 IQ bullshit lawyers that I have to fucking like say cite law for, try to argue with, and even judges, they have no idea. They're so stupid. Ugh. They can't. It's like I try to give them a rational thought and I give them a history lesson all together, and it's like flies over their effing head. And like, oh, he's just a crazy person. No, you're just stupid. We're not stupid, just not smart enough.
They're midwits.
Yeah.
A midwit, you'll get to this, I'm sure. A midwit really has a difficult time accepting that there are people smarter than them.
But they're smart enough to be aware that there are people who are smarter than them, and it vexes them. I am absolutely going to get to that. So, as I said, just to wrap up this slide, yes, this is the first time I've used PowerPoint on our streams. But as I was doing my show notes, I realized that PowerPoint was the way to go with this one. Chief, excellent question. Are midwits susceptible to groupthink? Yes, more so than any other group. And the reason I say that is because you go, oh, well, shouldn't the average people be? Yes, but the average people don't really know that that's what they're doing. Okay. The midwits are the creators of the groupthink. That's like there's a reason why a ton of these people are in colleges and software engineering, a lot of different engineering actually, but there's a reason why, and they are not just susceptible to it, they actually want it and need it, because that group represents the ability, it gives them the ability to defend themselves from the truly intelligent, which is something that I have slides for too. I love that you guys have gotten where I'm trying to go already.
Hey, I want to say something else in praise of the midwits. They're likely to be more successful than the higher intelligence people. For some reason, they focus in, they figure it out enough, they just go after it. And I'm measuring success in the terms of financial success and career success. They, in my experience, are more successful, rise higher, more form a business, make millions of dollars. That's where they come from.
Okay,
the gifted
Steve.
are less so.
Okay. I'm going to we will discuss this later. I am going what I will say is that outcome is not entirely natural. Okay.
Okay.
in the natural order and in the history of natural intelligence, intelligence is historically directly correlated to outcomes. Okay.
So is
So-
there something artificial in
Hey,
play?
like
Hmm,
being
interesting.
proven wrong.
What?
Sounds
I
like
like
there's something
being proven
artificial in
wrong.
the way.
Well, I don't have the charts to prove you wrong. What I'm going to make an argument about what I was
Brain gets
Nick,
in the way.
there is something standing in the way of
My brain.
no it's an artificial construct. There's a
My
human
brain versus
artificial
the system. That's my problem. I choose my brain.
the system is part of the problem here, and so there is an artificial construct that is I will not say suppressing the intellect. What I would say is redirecting the intellect. So here I need to. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
So how do you identify a midwit in a conversation or debate? Okay. Pretty simple. Midwits lever emotions because a midwit has a higher time preference, or sorry, a lower time preference than an average person, right? The midwit can literally
okay.
just go ahead.
Plutarch, you have to explain low time preference and high time
Okay,
preference
you're right.
again.
You're right. I do. So low time preference. The lower your time preference, the more willing you are to wait for something to be true in the future, and the more able you are to look backwards and use history as a guide for future events. So you have a very low preference for things in the moment. Okay. High time preference is just the opposite of that. I have a high preference for my time right here and now. Okay. So a midwit has a lower time preference than an average person. So if a midwit is debating somebody of average intelligence, they know that they can control their emotions longer than the average person. And so the key to winning a debate with the key for a midwit debating an average person is literally just outlast them. Just don't lose control of your emotions. There's more to it than that,
So,
but
Let me give
so
2 examples. Salesmen know this. Or if you're in a
used to be one.
negotiation and you're at
Used to be one.
tense point, and here's a decision point. You push a paper across the table. Here's the offer. You're the salesman. Sign. We got a deal. Then there's silence.
No,
If you're the
mom
salesman,
is the
you know,
word.
shut the fuck up. Don't say a fucking word.
Mom is the word.
Silence gets thick. And then, in order to break the silence, the weak party, the buyer, will sign. Okay, now the silence is broken. Now you're buddies again, and the dialogue starts. If you push a paper across the table and then you start talking, you lose. Salesman, you
Yep.
lose, and you're
Yep.
showing weakness. You have to let it build. The other thing, high time
Steve, you're
preference,
telling
low
me what I
time
used to
preference.
do.
Yeah, okay. All salesmen know that. Hey, you know what? I can go out and buy an M5 BMW, brand new. You'll loan me the money, and I can drive that tomorrow. Yeah, the car's $100,000. Yeah, do you payments $1,200 a month? Yeah, I think I can do that. But I can have it tomorrow. Or I can save my money, invest it, 2-3 years down the road, I can hopefully have enough money to pay cash for it. That's low time preference. But getting it
Bingo.
tomorrow, having it tomorrow, high time preference. So this plays out in so many areas. The low time preference person uses silence as power and makes the other person cave in to what they want. The high time preference person can't shut the fuck up and wants it everything right now.
And that also works when they are when a midwit is talking with somebody of higher intelligence. But when that happens, a person of higher intelligence will naturally have a lower time preference than the midwit, right? And so now the smarter person will, in generally, not always, guys. We are speaking in generalities here, and I want to make this clear. I have watched very intelligent people absolutely flame out and screw up. Okay, but in general, this is a model that I started working on a couple months ago for how to identify who is the more intelligent person in a debate or conversation. And so it's a 3-step process. And the first step is just watch how they're debating. And that's this time preference thing. So,
But
It's
be
also
aware,
the power of formal debate.
true.
but be aware that this time preference thing is a skill. It can
Absolutely.
be learned. So it's not a determinant of intelligence. It's a tell that might be true, might not be.
Correct. It is not, what is the phrase that they, not dispositive, right? It is, and that's all we can do with this. Is it is very difficult for somebody of average intelligence in general to try and figure out, if two smarter people are arguing, who's the smarter person. I'm trying to give tools, and our audience is actually pretty smart. So, but even then, you guys could take these tools and you could go, aha. For example, the whatever debates. So some dude comes on, absolutely clowns the women. Well, that's because the dude could maintain control of his emotions longer, make his points. And then what you'll see is that the less intelligent person will usually resort to like demanding absolute answers. They'll resort to, well, there's more that we'll get into. But when a lower intelligence person encounters somebody who is smarter than them, and they're smart enough to recognize that that's what's happened to them, the women on whatever usually don't recognize that right away, which is what makes for all the hilarity.
Right.
But if a lower IQ person encounters somebody who is measurably smarter than them, notice me, it's like if it's 5 points, that's not enough difference to make a difference. But if we're talking one standard deviation, so 115 to 130, that is enough to make a difference. Now this person needs an exit. Okay. So what are they going to do? First, they're going to attack. Steve, your word, I threw it in here because it's such a good word. They're going to bluster. Okay.
Okay.
They're going to start literally word salading. Oh, hey, look, how many women have we seen word salad on YouTube, right? It's endless, but this is what a lower IQ person does when debating a person of higher intelligence. They overtalk. Oh my goodness, women again. Where have we seen this?
No, wait a minute here. Nick, when you were married and you were trying to explain something to your wife, did she ever cut you off in the middle because she kind of figured out where you were going and just start talking and over talking or finish your sentences to get you off your point?
Yep. All the time. I barely said a word. I'll I'll interject here again. This is why I enjoy one-on-one conversations. I get lost, especially if I'm debating somebody when I have like 5 people around. They're all interjecting, and I feel like I'm carrying on 5 different debates at one time. And especially with a woman, um, you can't logic a woman into compliance. Like you can present the facts, but at the end of the day, they're going to overtalk. They're going to bluster, overtalk, and they'll even call you names. But this is why I tend to be very quiet when a lot of people talk. Not with YouTube because we're all kind of the same mentality and same IQ ish. And this is why I prefer formal debate versus these I got you moments like you see in whatever and shit, because you have time, you have a structure where you can present your argument, counter argument, rebuttal, cross examination, and then conclusion, where you can actually present your formal thoughts cohesively and interact with the formal thoughts of your opponent. I appreciate that.
So Nick,
Am I moving your slides ahead? Because my screen is.
yes, you can.
acting weird.
You can move my slides ahead. So
I don't intend to do that, but for some reason today my screen goes blank, and then when I click, it moves your slide.
Huh. Well, thank you, StreamYard.
I don't know what's going on.
But Nick, you going back to what Def said earlier about how they feel dumb because they just, one of the hallmarks, and this is on a later slide, but one of the hallmarks of a high intelligence person is calm demeanor. They tend to withdraw from the emotionalist fray. Okay, that's that is absolutely a hallmark of a high IQ person, because they feel like either they can't give the argument its due effort, or there's just too much going on, and they're not able to give all 5 different arguments due effort. The gotcha moments in particular are, I'm going to just call them logical fallacies, because they almost always end up being some form of logical fallacy. But one of the things you see in high IQ people is they generally don't make logical fallacies. They can, right? But the higher you go in IQ, the fewer you're going to see. Okay. And then, of course, you'll get to the name calling. Again, you've seen this on whatever. But you'll see this even with midwits arguing with somebody who is higher intelligence. They just use a different form of name calling. On the screen there, I say, you're just being pedantic, you're just being autistic, etc. When somebody calls somebody who's making a cogent argument autistic, what they're actually saying is, well, I don't have a better argument, and I don't want to fight you on this, so I am going to try and make you go away by calling you a name. And then I know that the people underneath me who in the intelligence bracket who do not understand what's going on between the two, they're just going to go, oh, that's the autist. And it looks like to them, guys, idiocracy plays through all of this, right?
So this is a form of an ad hominem attack.
Correct.
Yes. And once they have done that, then you will see some form of intentional disengagement. This argument isn't worth my time. You won't change my mind. I was watching a TikTok video of a girl, or you won't change your mind. I was watching a TikTok girl last night saying, well, but this guy just didn't understand. He would
hold on. This disengagement, is this done by the higher IQ person or the lower IQ person? Okay.
So I'm using midwit here because what I'm in my mind, this was constructed as how do I teach an average IQ person how to identify the midwit versus the actual the actual genius. Okay, that's kind of how I constructed this. So it's an average person looking at 2 people smarter than them going at it, trying to figure out who to listen to.
Okay, that's useful. Because in general, here's my belief. A debate is more often going to happen between a midwit or two midwits, or a midwit and a higher IQ person. The average intelligence person is saying, I'm not going there. No,
Yep.
that's not for me. So you're not going to see them in the debate. So it'll be the debates happen between midwits or higher.
So, Andrew, this is actually a great comment. And the philosophy behind this comment is a good chunk of why we behave the way we behave on this channel. Andrew says, I already know I'm not going to change your mind. The only point of the conversation is for a third party that may be listening in. Exactly. And so what I'm trying to do a little bit with the slides and this model is to help the average person listening in understand who is the midwit and who is the actual intelligence. And then they can say, oh, well, I probably want to listen to the smarter guy. He probably knows more than the midwit. Okay. That
doesn't mean that the smarter person is right.
It doesn't. That's true.
The midwit may actually be right, but not be as skilled or as intelligent to know why he's right.
You keep jumping ahead to my future slides. Maybe I didn't put them in the right order.
Oh man, I haven't even seen your slides.
That's just what we do. We grasp the train of thought and we take it to its conclusions before we even get there. So it's just kind of what we do. So
Steve is raining on my parade. Oh, Steve, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
So now there's a third step to what the midwits will do. Shun and avoid. So you assert to your audience that your opponent is stupid or malicious or some emotional grab language to convince the audience not to listen to that person, that they're not worth listening to. Okay. There is absolutely nothing about formal debate that where any of this would be allowed, right? Which is why midwits avoid formal debate. You only see formal debate amongst high IQ people. Midwits can't handle it. Okay. And then of course, once they've shunned and avoided, they will then refuse to engage with them again. And they'll cite some sort of principle of one that I see all the time is, well, I don't debate stupid people. So you call that person stupid, and then you say, oh, well, I have this high-minded principle that I don't debate people I think are stupid. Okay.
That sounds familiar in the RP space.
Yeah. Okay. I agree in principle.
Mean also calling people autists just for having principles. Okay.
But debate ability is twofold: intelligence or skill.
Correct.
So you can have a very skilled debater who is actually better at this than the more intelligent person.
Yes.
So debating skill is not a direct correlation to intelligence.
That is correct. And in fact, debating skill can be used to make yourself seem like you are more intelligent than you actually are.
Right.
And oh man, there's a guy, ESR.
That can
Eric,
be.
Go ahead, Nick.
But that can be useful if you're not skilled rhetorically, but skilled in logical fallacies and logic to point out the errors in the person that is more intelligent. It can happen.
Oh,
so it's not always bad,
but there's a difference in how, and I'll get to this later. There's a difference in how the more intelligent person will handle that correction versus the midwit. And it turns out that there's a key difference there that can actually help you figure out who the more intelligent person is. So what we see is, I mean, this is how idiocracy is achieved, because now only people who meet this person's this person, usually the lower IQ person, has set up a principle that they don't debate people who they decide are stupid, and then they decide that everyone smarter than them is actually stupid. And that gets back to the gaslighting that I was talking to you about deaf earlier. You have been gaslit to think you're stupid, okay, by people who are dumber than you, who need you to believe that you are in fact dumber than them. And you can actually pull down sort of the collective intelligence of the conversation, of the public discourse, by doing this. Okay. And the left does it, but you know who else does it? The right. In fact, I would argue the right is better at it than the left is.
I want to term this the tyranny of equality.
I like it.
Because since all of us were created equal, and this is the American way, no one can be smarter than me. So if I say they're equal, then my view wins, and I can demonize them. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yes, it does. And I'm going to push this down and I'm going to pull this up. This is related to a different conversation. This is about the H-1B thing, but the mean IQ in India is 76. They're dealing with specifically white Americans here. Okay, 1.4 billion, but when a mean IQ is 76, that means that the distribution, that third standard deviation that we call 145 is actually 121 in India. Okay. So this is what I call the tyranny of the IQ curve, right? There are fewer high intelligence Indians than there are Americans, despite there being many more Indians numerically. So it's not enough to say we're all equal, because we are not all equal. And when you try to say we're all equal, you end up treating a country that has a mean IQ of 76 as if it has the same IQ as the United States.
Okay, hold on. I don't know that you're wrong, but let me assume that you are wrong.
Okay.
And let's say the mean of India is not 76, it's actually 94.
Okay.
The conclusion would still be the same. Okay, we're talking about the tail here. There still are more smarter people here in our country than there are in India. Okay, there'd be just more of them. Yes, you can skim the cream off the crop, the cream off the top. And it might be a thicker layer, and there'd be more of them. But their cream is not as thick as the cream here. There's no other conclusion. Even if you're wrong on your numbers, the cream here is thicker. And okay, I'm a farm boy. I drank raw milk. We'd go to the farmer, get the milk, let it settle, and the cream always came to the top. And you would have a thick layer of cream on the top. That's where the term comes from. And farmers have always been paid on the amount of cream in their milk. And if it's less cream, okay, you only get this much on top. The cream on the top, it's a term of that which rises to the top, which was common knowledge, farmer knowledge. I guess I had to go into that because people don't know that. They may not know that anymore.
So Steve, we're assuming this bell curve in some form is pretty much universal. Has that been demonstrated? I think it has.
I don't know the answer to that, but my belief is the bell curve exists everywhere. The
Well, I think
center
so
of the
too.
bell curve differs. The standard deviation differs. In other words, on average, men have the average of all men. On average, women have the average of all women. But the male bell curve is lower than the female bell curve, meaning there are more women who exist at the exact peak average than there are men. So the men distribution is wider, which means the peak is lower. Now, okay, I can picture this in my mind because I'm a mechanical engineer. I'm adept at math. I can envision these type of things. So you see this? This is a bell curve. You could draw the same bell curve at half the height, but it would just be wider. It would still be a bell curve.
Steve, that's the part of the show you missed.
The
Okay,
universality of
good
the
thing
bell
I'm
curve
repeating
among
it.
mankind. Wow.
Yep.
So the
So-
bell curve is universal.
A bell curve is a we see it in all forms of statistics. We see it in pretty much anything where you're going to have a mean, median, and mode. You're going to have something that looks like a bell curve.
So
Okay.
my question is, why is the bell curve universal among mankind, even though it might go to the left or right depending on certain societies?
There's two answers to that. One is that in any statistical grouping, you're going to have a statistical average. And in the case of mankind, we have an average psychology. Yes, there's outliers, whatever. Most people have an average psychology, which means most people are going to do average psychology things, which means that there's going to be a bunch of people in the middle of the curve. I would use the term, it is not just a natural law, but it is a law of physics. It is required by the very construction of the universe that these things exist the way they do.
Yeah. Well, I'm just taking notice
Hey.
that it's this bell curve. We'll do this in America. We'll do it in India. We'll do it in Haiti. We'll do it in Europe. We'll do it in Asia. And then we can also see like the deviations of part certain countries or ethnicities, whatever you want to say. It's just interesting, but there's still a bell curve.
Oh, yes.
I'll give you another thing I just noticed. Ask my mind, how's the bell curve related to the golden ratio?
There is
Nick, do
actually
you
a
know what
formal
golden
mathematical
ratio
relation.
is? Okay, I'll tell you what the golden ratio is. Take numbers 1, 1. Add 1 and 1, you get 2. Okay, and then add the preceding numbers. So 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 21 and 13, 34, 55. Okay, now take the ratio of any number, the preceding number to the present number. And as you move up, it gets more and more perfect. But the ratio is around 0.68 to 0.32. That's a golden ratio. And now if you plot this as a curve, it's a spiral, just like found in a sunflower. the ratio of the spiral, just like found in the galaxy. You know, how the arms swing out. The same pattern is found. Gee, what's 34 plus 34?
68.
68. Man, this seems like a bell curve has some relation to the golden ratio, which is found throughout nature. Now, this is just a very superficial analysis. Maybe it's deeper than this. I don't know.
Well, so there is no,
Plutarch can answer
Why-
this.
there is no formal
We're
mathematical
talking
relationship.
about Western
Nick.
white ethnocentrism. How dare you?
So there is no formal
Uh.
mathematical relationship between the two. However, both are directly connected to natural phenomena, and they appear to be some sort of natural law or natural rule about the physics of the universe around us.
So
Imagine that.
is, even if you draw a different curve, is the 68% always going to be within one standard deviation, or does that vary?
It does not vary. If
Okay,
you're using
so
from the mean. If you use median, yes,
Right.
it does. But
Okay, yeah. So in general, it's going to hold true. 68% of the people are within one standard deviation of the average or the mean.
Mhm.
I mean, we
Uh,
kind of use these terms
until-
interchangeably, and they don't differ that much. Average, mean, median, they're usually pretty much the same. Not always.
Until you
Yeah.
interject XX and XY. Except interjecting XX and XY. It changes a bit.
It changes a bit, but it doesn't change. So the interesting thing about that is, IQ is hereditary. So if you have a country with a low IQ, that means that both the men and the women are sitting pretty close to each other in terms of mean IQ. Okay. Yeah, it varies a little bit, but we're talking 2 to 3 points either way on on average. It doesn't vary that much. One of the things we always see is that the female bell curve is always more leptokurtic and the male bell curve is always more platykurtic. Okay. That is seen throughout the world. So, and then you kind of put it together, but there are no countries where like all the men are 75 and all the women are 95. Like that just doesn't happen.
Correct.
Right.
Oh, the natural order keeps reasserting itself. Interesting.
Hey, Nick, could it just be that natural law is descendant of the physical rules of the universe?
Yeah, and the way God designed men and women, and also there's other factors I don't want to talk about tonight.
Nah. Yes, Nick.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
Nature versus nurture and that debate and all that crap.
well, it turns out nurture. Okay, so let's talk about nurture and IQ for a little bit. Your IQ in terms of your tested score is genetic. It is set at conception. Okay? But because it's just your IQ is determined by the genetics of the two parents involved. It's set at connection. We also mentioned how you can use traumatic brain injuries and drugs and alcohol to lower IQ. It is not possible to raise your IQ. However, Steve was talking earlier about how a more skilled debater can point out the flaws in a more intelligent person's argument.
Right.
There is intelligence and then there is knowledge. I have met clearly high IQ people who don't have a sufficient knowledge base to leverage their IQ. Okay. So and anybody with high IQ will tell you this. If you have a high IQ, that is not enough to do things like, oh, win a Fields Medal or a Nobel Prize, right? It is a combination of luck, or there's some luck, because you have to, if you're born in India, your chances are much lower than if you're born in Europe. Okay. There is obviously your intelligence matters, but there's also how much effort you put into utilizing your intelligence. And you cannot utilize it without knowledge. I've said before on this show that IQ is your speed limit. Okay. IQ is how fast you can take in knowledge and integrate it into your worldview. Okay. That's what it is. You still have to go out and do the work. I love that phrase. Thank you, Rich Cooper. Do the work of getting the knowledge to use it. Okay. So deaf, going back to deaf earlier. Oh, well, I feel like I'm the dumbest person in the room. Well, the purpose of them gaslighting you is so that you won't go do the work, because I can take somebody with 110, 150 IQ, but a large base of intelligence, and have them go up against 130, 140 with no knowledge. And that lower IQ person will defeat them, not on the backs of their intelligence, or will likely defeat them, but on the backs of the fact that the other person has no idea what the lower IQ person is talking about. And so the lower IQ, the midwits in particular, desperately need you to not go use your intelligence so that they can maintain control over you, so that they can maintain power over you.
I want to make a different point here about intelligence and education. My maternal grandfather, he dropped out of school at 12 years old because of hardships. So he had an 8th grade education. I remember him sitting at the table, I'd go visit him, and he'd read the paper, and he always had to move his lips as he was reading the paper. But this man didn't get the family inheritance, had to move out and form his own way, bought 160 acres of land in northern Minnesota in the 30s during the Dust Bowl era, but it was actually land that had a spring on it. Then he bought another 80 acres. Never became wealthy, but he had a damn good farm. My paternal grandfather, I think he had a high school education. Oh, he had 160 acres too. That's all he had. That's all he ever bought. And thinking about, where in my heritage, where did the intelligence come from? I think it's my maternal grandfather. I think very highly of that man. Not highly educated at all, but damn, did he know how to do stuff. And he was just a very calm man. And stories from my mother, he was very directive, not very emotional. So, he wouldn't have won a debate against everybody, but damn, and he made a success out of himself. He was smart enough, and farmers actually have to be pretty smart people. They got to understand markets. They got to understand finance. They got to understand investments. Intelligence does not equate with education.
Yeah, it really doesn't. Most education is built for the average. It's built for the green on the screen. Okay. It can work somewhat with the lower in the blue area, the upper blue area, but you get up 120, 125, and that's where you start to see the ADHD diagnoses come down. Those kids are so far ahead of the rest of the class that the teachers don't know what to do. They're smarter than the teacher. And so the answer is, of course, medicate them, which is a fucked up answer. Okay.
Yep. Oh,
Fuck that
my mom
shit.
tried to do that. She tried to put me on this crap, and I was like, yeah. It's like, but I don't feel like myself. My dad said, if you don't like it, don't fucking take it, son. I said, yes, sir.
Good man. Good man.
If
Oh,
a smart person gets to the answer and figures it out in 15% of the time, they got 85% of the time to cause problems and fuck around and whatnot. So got the point. What the hell do you expect them to do? Sit there with their thumb up their ass?
Well, that's what modern school expects them to do.
Oh, I remember. So, like when I was in high school, I'd take these classes, and they said, "What?" We figured out ways to get around the homework. We developed a system, purposely getting certain answers wrong versus putting in effort. We didn't give a shit. We figured it out. A few of us. We just get together the day before the test. Pretty much never having done one out of maybe 10 assignments on the homework. We show up, get like the highest scores on the exam, and everybody yeah,
Yeah.
because
So
we already understood. We understood the formulas, we understood the facts. The rest of the time was just a waste of our time. We had better shit to do and bored us to death.
I have a similar story from my college days. There was a class we had to take it. It was a software class. I'd been working with this stuff for years at this point. I already knew everything the teacher was going to teach. And so we would come in, it was a group of 3 of us, and we would come in and we would just take the class and leave, and we'd go off and work. It was also the quarter that we were working on our final project, our capstone project, if you will. And so we just come in, take the class, leave, go off, work on the capstone project, because that was the thing that was actually stressing us out. Well, the teacher but we were acing the tests. We were 95, 100, right? We were just acing them, and we were barely showing up for class. And so the teacher, midway through the semester, says, I am installing a attendance component to the grade. And if you don't show up, your final grade will be 0. So what did we do? we went, we sat in the back of the class, worked on our projects loudly, just to cause shit, just to stir. If you're going to make us be here, fine. We are going to be here. It was probably one of the most fun semesters of my college career, because we were just clowning on this prof. But it's like, it's true everywhere. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next slide. How to identify somebody with high IQ. So we've talked about this time preference thing. They tend to not be easily manipulated emotionally. And the reason for that is they are intelligent. They know they're intelligent. They typically, not always, have enough command of the facts and the logic that for them, the debate isn't about some emotional thing. It's just, well, no, here's like, they're so sure of the fact of the matter that it's not emotional for them. There's no emotional hook. And so, Steve, you were talking about calm demeanor.
Right.
It is interesting that it is the tails of the bell curve that have the calm demeanor, because we were talking about the mentally disabled, and they also tend to be very, they tend to be calm. They tend to be very happy. They tend to be, just nice people to be around. But it's the noisy middle where all of these problems show up. Okay. You're a high IQ person is willing to extend respect even in moments of disagreement, and partly for the next bullet point, because they stubbornly avoid absolutes. This goes back to what we were talking about earlier, Nick and Def, and about how we get into something, and the more we get into it, the dumber we feel, right? The one thing that a high IQ person is absolutely certain of is that they don't know enough. And so they tend to avoid making statements of absolutes because they don't know if there's something out there that they're missing. Okay.
Well, it's especially with inductive arguments versus deductive arguments. Deductive arguments, you have more
Yes.
certainty versus inductive. It's more difficult.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, let me explain something that I just thought of. How I conduct my life. I observe. I come up with a theory. I believe my theory. Do I know that my theory is true or absolutely true? No. But I conduct my life as if that theory is true. It's like an operative belief in it. And I'll act certain about what I'm doing because it adheres to my theory. But yet I understand my theory might be wrong. So it's just an operative belief. And if I get information that says I'm wrong, well, then I'm going to have to revise what I'm doing, make apologies, make amends, whatever. But I got to operate on something. That's the way I conduct my life.
Yes. It's so Jim in the comments, don't know that I want to pull that one up because YouTube, but right. But
James
high IQ
Buchanan.
person,
Yep.
yeah. High IQ person can step outside of their worldviews and investigate them from afar. That is exactly what we're talking about here. The high IQ person can do not just higher order thinking, but multi-order thinking, right? So they can not just take one chain of events to a multi-order or higher order consequences, but they can do that for a bunch of different ones, right? And that is another marker I didn't get on. Well, actually, it is on this list right here. Identifies higher order consequences of the midwits argument. In this case, that's kind of what I'm talking about. Bonus points if they can identify how to alter the argument to mitigate the consequences. That is real high IQ thinking right there. High IQ people tend to have superior command of facts. Not always. We've discussed this before. You can have a high IQ person who simply doesn't have the data set to be able to make that argument. Most of them will recognize that, acknowledge it, and just say, you know what? And they'll just tell you that, look, I don't know enough about this to have this argument. I'm just going to let you have it. But you're not likely to see like a hot-headed debate over this. If a midwit is going after a high IQ person and the high IQ person actually turns around and engages with them, very likely the high IQ person has already figured out what the midwit's after, knows that they know enough to talk about it, and is going to push back. But there is another thing that is very highly correlated with IQ. Polymathy. It is extremely correlated with IQ. Polymathy is it's when a person learns more than one distinct field of knowledge. Now, I'm not saying like, okay, you have psychology and then you have behavioral psychology. Those are both psychology. This would be like saying you learn psychology and then you go learn astrophysics. Okay. That's polymathy. Okay. So,
well,
go ahead.
Does it also relate to moving of concepts from one area into a completely other area and saying, well, if it's true over
That's
here,
part of it, yeah.
it's true over here. I mean, that's because they may not be an expert in a different field. For instance, I'm trained as an engineer, but I use that training and apply it to human dynamics, psychology, in engineering terms. I've not studied psychology, but I think I have a working understanding, maybe distinct theory in psychology that is enabled by my engineering mind.
That's part of it. It's definitely something you will see the higher IQ people doing. But remember what I said, IQ is like a speed limit. So if you're rocking 130 or 145, it is not difficult for you to amass a sufficient level of knowledge in a field in less than a lifetime. In fact, that's one way
Okay.
you could look at average IQ. A person with an average IQ has an IQ sufficient to amass the knowledge of one field in their lifetime, to amass sufficient knowledge to be proficient in their field in one lifetime. You get to 130 IQ, it's polymathy basically becomes assumed. Those people always have more than one field that they are capable in. For example, and I've mentioned all this before. I'm a software engineer. I'm also a pilot. I also do finance and trading and economics. All three are very complex fields that require in-depth study. Economics is related to engineering, so I was able to take some, Steve, as you were saying, I was able to take some of the engineering principles and transfer them over to flying, or to economics. Same with flying. Flying has engineering in it. I was able to take some of the engineering principles, right? So yes, but consider that most people in life, so for example, most pilots will spend their entire lives perfecting their craft to the point where they are good at it. Okay. A polymath can do it in 10 years and then move on to something else. Okay. So polymathy is one of the most accurate and useful ways of determining whether or not somebody is truly gifted. If you have an IQ of 150, you probably have a number of different disciplines underneath you. Okay. That you can speak cogently on.
So this is why you can have the midwit systematic theologians, and then you can have the more brilliant systematic theologians. The midwits, they just rehash shit, right? They might know some exegesis, they might know some systematic, some logic, confessionalism, just they rehash crap, they might borrow some philosophy. But a true systematic theologian needs to know anthropology. They need to know mankind. They need to know natural law. This is why most 20th century theologians, most of them are total bullcrap, excluding a few. They don't know how to study humanity. They don't know how behavioralism. They don't know how to use inductive data. A lot of them their logic is crap. Yeah, some of them are really highly skilled in exegesis or middling in exegesis. You just need to know exegesis, but you also need to understand philosophical concepts and bring all this together and coordinate all of Scripture and the history of theology together. You have to bring in many, many multiple fields to bring them together as a cogent whole. And you might see some of my episodes where I kind of bring that together. There's a reason why I love systematics, is because you have to be able to think at a high order level thinking and bring expertise in various fields together to bring a concise statement. which is why bringing the red pill together with theology, anthropology, natural law, and exegesis is actually a higher order of thinking, which needs done, but the church refuses because the midwits
Well,
reading.
the midwits own the church. There is a reason why you see people with high IQs and they go out there and they take all these things and they put them together. How do you think we got rockets? There are so many different things that had to come together to do rockets. And it's just engineering. No, it's not.
Yeah.
A
My
huge
grandfather
amount of
worked on them.
a huge amount of mathematics. But here's the thing that people don't think about.
Yeah.
Without the philosophy of logic, we would not have been able to create the higher order mathematics that make rockets possible.
Right. Correct.
That is polymathy. And that's why I say it is one of the best ways of identifying the truly high IQ. Okay, but if that's high IQ, then, or Steve, do you have something to say, or you just?
No, I was just gonna ask. I will ask Nick this question. Nick, you've studied a lot of philosophy. Very educated people, and a lot of men's minds would come to mind. What is the greatest female philosopher or theologian?
Mary.
Okay, enough said there.
I'm not Roman Catholic, but Mary.
Well, and you would be right, and it's in the Bible. The Catholics call it the Magnificat.
Right.
My soul proclaims the glory of God, and I can't recite the rest of it, but it's in the Bible. Yeah,
Was
really.
her IQ high? I can't answer that. I can't answer her
I don't
IQ.
know. We're not arguing that. My point is that these traits that Plutarch is talking about here are almost exclusively found in men.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
You know what? You can shoot me if you want, but I'm just telling you what I've observed.
Well, I did tell people on Twitter that we were going to piss people off tonight, and that leptokurtosis of women around the mean, it shows up in the data every single time we look. And what that means is that there are going to be more men out at what we call the right tail, the high IQ side. There's going to be more men out there. Yes, there's also more men in the left tail, the low IQ. Why? Because men are more likely to do jobs that give you TBI, traumatic brain injury. Sorry, that's just the way it works. Okay. On to the next slide. So, a midwit is interesting because they can have a limited polymathy. They might have command of one field, but a large array of it. So it's like you could have somebody who has command of psychology, but also evolutionary psychology, behavioral psychology, et cetera, right? Like they have command of a large array of it, or they have command of two fields, right? But that's about the most a midwit can handle. And it's going to take them 20 to 30 years to get the command of that field. And they will intensely focus on that field for most of their life. They tend to view the primary field as as the most important field in the world. I call this the small world mental model of correctness. Sorry, Elena's in the background making noise. So yeah, but what this means is that when a midwit it means that the midwit will take their small view, their primary field, and they will make that their mental model of correctness, and then they will say everything outside of that is incorrect. So an example of this actually occurred on Rollo's stream last week. Mystery said something that just
Right.
Elena will tell you, this threw me
I
because
remember this. I remember this too. I know what you're talking about.
and what Mystery says is that women are the most important thing, and he just leaves it there. So of course, to a PUA, notch count is the most important measure of masculinity. Why? Because women are the most important thing. We could do an entire episode of just how midwit that one statement was from a red pill standpoint. Okay, fine. Okay. But Mystery has for many decades become an expert in his field, and he has focused intensely on it. He knows it way better than I do, and I will freely admit that. Okay.
Yep.
But he said something, and I'm sitting here going, that was an actually retarded statement. But and we'll get into this. This matters for the next slides. Nick, you were talking about the theology bros in church. They think that perfect theology is the most important measure of a man. Same thing. They have a small world view of correctness that is, if I don't have perfect theology, I'm going to hell, basically. This leads,
like most Christians throughout history are going to hell because they agree on every jot and tittle. Okay.
Well, one of the things, one of the hallmarks of a midwit is endless quibbling over minutia. Okay. In fact, one of the things that you will see is that high IQ people get things wrong on a given subject more than the midwits do, because the high IQ person did not put that much intense focus into sorting out the minutia. This is why I frequently refer to Nick about the minutia of theology. I'll be honest, I haven't put in the kind of time that Nick has on it. And I don't think Nick has an expectation. Well, right. I don't think Nick has an expectation that I would. And I'm pretty sure the Bible doesn't have an expectation that I would either.
Not everybody's meant to be a theologian. Everybody's a theologian, but not everybody's meant to do it on that scale.
Right.
It's not necessary.
Well, but okay, Steve, I'm gonna pull a Steve here. I'm gonna push back on you a little bit, because if the world of correct is small, then getting the details right is of paramount importance. So to a midwit, Steve, it is the most important thing.
Yeah, okay. It's very important. I will grant you that. But I don't have the capability or the interest or the time to study that field to know what's right or wrong. So I'm going to use a shortcut. I'm going to take my general beliefs and then listen to someone who's smarter than me about those details. But, I'm also going to screen what he says against my general beliefs. But, yeah, I'm going to use these shortcuts. So, yeah, if it's generally, if it agrees with the foundational things I have, then I'll listen to him and say, oh, okay. So I don't have to debate him on the details or use my logic to catch him in a lie, to beat my chest and say, see, I'm really smarter than you, and I know more because I got this one thing right.
Correct. So midwits put an enormous amount of importance on the details of their thing. And going back to the prior slides about how they interact with higher IQ people, they will routinely use their command of minutia to try and override the broader argument of the high IQ person. And the higher IQ person who is not given to absolutes and probably didn't know that little piece of information is going, huh, that's interesting. Most of the
But it's
time, what
also a way
ends
to
up
derail debate discussion, though, is just to bring up minutia,
correct.
like a woman does with a man.
Correct. Yes. Well, what you find,
Yep.
there's an interesting observation there, though, Nick.
Yep.
Midwit men are the female are the feminine coded version of intelligence. So if women, in that 90 to 100 range, they kind of behave this way. Midwit men are doing the same thing in the male arena. They are using slightly more advanced versions of feminine tactics. Okay, moving on.
Well, I want to talk about that a little bit before. Well, you can switch the screen. What the three of us do. Okay, both you guys are Protestants. I'm Catholic. We could quibble about what's right, what's wrong. What do we choose to do? Focus on the commonality. And Nick and Plutarch are gracious enough to allow me to explain the Catholic point of view. And then they say, oh, okay. Now and now I understand what they believe. And I'm gracious enough to allow them to explain what they believe. Okay. Distinctly different. I'm not out to convince them to change. They don't try and convince me to change, but I am greatly appreciative for the dialogue because I want to understand others. I don't need to be right. I can put myself intellectually on their side to understand where they're coming from temporarily and then go back to believing what I believe. Okay, you don't have to always look at it from your own perspective.
I mean, so basically, putting
not
yourself in
many
your
people
own
can
shoes.
do that.
So taking yourself out of your own shoes and putting them into another, and assuming their premises and kind of seeing the logical outflow of where this comes from, based on their presuppositions or assumptions.
Correct.
So
it's like putting on another person's clothes and seeing what it feels like. And then go look at yourself in the mirror wearing those other clothes. Oh, I don't look like myself. Well, I'm not myself because I'm wearing another man's clothes. That's the analogy.
All right. Yes. Okay, next. I actually we're getting about done with what I've prepared for this. So this is what I call them. Oh, thank you, StreamYard, for messing up my slide. So this is what I call the Midwit Mafia. They're intelligent enough to realize that they are smarter than average. And they are. It is true. Okay? And they're willing to say so publicly. You'll see this all the time. They don't say it as in, I have an IQ of 110 and I am smarter than average. But they come out and they speak with authority. And they speak with the authority of somebody who has spent an enormous amount of time on slide 8 intensely focusing on their field. Okay. They're intelligent enough to realize that there are people who are smarter than them.
That's a good thing.
That's a good thing, but there's two ways they can take it. And the most common way to take that realization right now is they are an existential threat to the clout base. Okay.
You mean the more intelligent people are?
Yes, the more intelligent person is a threat.
Is the threat. Yeah.
Yes, because a midwit is generally, they're very scared of being found out to not be as intelligent as they have held themselves out to be. Okay. And, I am not thinking of any one person here. In fact, I'm thinking of entire classes of people, like, say, I don't know, the entire media complex. I don't know how many articles I've read in the media dealing with aviation where I sit here and I read what they're writing and I go, who put this together? Are you freaking kidding me? This is retarded. Like, this is actually retarded. Okay.
Are you talking about the eye movements and gender study that just came out for aviation?
Yes, I am that.
Yeah. Okay.
um, but that's another example of you can have, but that's an example of you can have an education system that is dominated by midwits, right? StreamYard cut off my slide here. What it's supposed to say is they never willingly engage with high IQ. They always want to punch down. And if they accidentally engage with high IQ, see step 2, save face and leave as soon as possible. That's what that slide is supposed to say.
This correlates with the common criticism of modern education. They teach you what to think, not how to think.
Mm-hmm.
So the danger in teaching someone how to think, they're going to think something different than what you want them to think. Therefore, they are a threat. So, that's why education is really a tyranny of midwits.
It is, and an interesting thing has occurred since World War II and the Great Depression. We have created elaborate systems to push high IQ people into enclaves, particularly enclaves where they cannot do, air quotes, damage to these institutions. Because midwits are the world's gatekeepers. They run every institution, political, educational, media, government, whatever you want. They run all of it. Okay. And they gatekeep it. But they don't spend most of their time gatekeeping from average people. Average people really aren't that interested in it. Okay. What we said at the beginning. Average people are tradespeople. Right? They're tradesmen. They work with their hands. That's the average person. They are not interested in this. But what this means is midwits caused all of the problems that you see today. And because they created all of the problems, they cannot solve any of the problems that they have created. And so now you're starting to see, and I'm seeing this, there's a couple of guys I follow on Twitter, Eric S. Raymond, super smart software engineer. Much of the internet infrastructure that this very video is running on was written by him. Another guy, Devin Erickson. Both of these guys have IQs in the 140 plus range. Okay. They are now starting to wake up and speak to the political, to the educational, and even to the media, especially Devin Erickson in media. He's got a big Twitter footprint on that. But what this means is that you're going to see a lot, and this really gets to the core of what I want for people to get out of this episode, is we need to start really buckling down and learning how to identify the really smart people, because it was the midwits that created our problems, which means that only people smarter than them can solve them. Because if the midwits could solve them, they would have. So we need to listen to the actually intelligent people. And yeah, I don't agree with some of ESR's politics. I certainly don't agree with his views on religion. But damn it, the man is brilliant, and he grew up inside the governmental system. His dad was his dad worked at U.S. consulates around the world. He grew up inside the State Department. He knows the thing inside and out. He knows how government works. He was literally born in it. I'm going to listen to him when he speaks on that subject. I'm also going to listen to him on
average people have no problem with the highly intelligent.
Nope, they don't.
They don't care. They're fine, whatever. You want to lead? You want to do this? Yep, go ahead. I got no problem. The midwits are threatened because they are guarding their territory, their intellectual property, their leadership, their turf. And remember from that curve that Plutarch showed, 14% of people fall into what I'm broadly calling the midwit category. The highly intelligent, that's only 2%.
Correct, yes.
And, of that 2%, frankly, in my opinion, 130 doesn't cut it for the highly intelligent. You gotta be 140 plus. Those are the real guys. So you are down at that 140 plus. You're down to like 0.8% of the population. Less than 1%. So they are such a small number compared with, the number between 150 and 140 would probably be what? 15, 16%.
150 and 140 is going to be, it's about 0.5%.
No, between 115 and 140, you're talking
150. Okay.
15.8%. Above 140, 0.2%. Something like that.
Roughly.
I want to say the bulk of the people that are causing the problems is in that range. The people who can solve it are so very few. So they're never going to win by strength of numbers.
Nope. It's what makes universal suffrage so destructive. Because Devin Erickson, he does a great monologue on this. He says voting is not a right, it's an office.
It's a positive right, so it's an office. Yeah, it's not a natural right. Natural law.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so
actually Dabney says the same thing.
Well, if you knew Devin Erickson's politics and his religious choices, you might find he might be surprised to find that he agrees with an old Presbyterian scholar. But the point here is that voting was almost what the U.S. is doing, particularly post 1920s universal suffrage, has been a fascinating experiment. But we now have 100 years of data that says it's an abject failure.
Right.
And there is a growing movement online to ditch universal suffrage and make suffrage contingent on something. Go ahead, Nick.
No, I'm just raising my hand. I'm one of them.
They don't understand that not much would change. Really, for most people.
Mm-hmm.
Eliminate the voting. Okay, just for instance, if you eliminated the voting rights of 50% of men and 100% of women, would they be disadvantaged? Really? Would we have better decisions?
Yes. Jenna,
your
you
single
think
vote
so?
doesn't matter. I mean, okay, me, will I give up my voting right to restrict 100% of women from voting and 50% of men from voting? Hell yeah, sign me up.
So,
Yep.
so Steve, are you voting for Plato's Republic of Philosopher Kings?
I don't know the context of that enough to answer that.
Okay. All right. Another.
Well,
Sorry, that one went over my head.
Okay.
so what Steve is saying is that basically every man with an IQ of 100 or greater gets the right to vote. Effectively. That'd be one way to meet your 100% of women can't vote and 50% of men can't vote. Oh, well, you have to have an IQ over 100 and over 100. There you go. Just
Okay, now any woman that can argue effectively why this would be a bad thing by a consensus and have her sway 3 men to agree with her. Well, men of over 100 IQ also gets a right to vote.
not a whole lot of women in that category there, Steve.
Well, how do you think? Why do you think I set up that criteria? She has to convince 3 men
Yeah.
using logic and reason.
So I really hope that we can stop looking at high IQ as if there's some sort of Sheldon Cooper autistic. Note here, so I went back to this slide. Sheldon Cooper fits this model much better than he does fit the model of an actual intelligent person. Sheldon Cooper has limited polymathy. He's a genius level mathematician, and he really likes railroads and trains, and that's about it. That's like all he does. Okay. Oh, he intensely focuses on 1 or 2 fields. He has a small world mentality of correctness, and he is endlessly quibbling over minutia. Now, remember how I said that at the beginning of the show that brain damage, that you can lower your IQ through brain damage? Okay. In IQ scoring, and there have been lots of studies done on this, psychological disorders such as access to narcissists, sociopathy, etc., also have the same effect on IQ as physical brain damage. The average IQ loss was somewhere between 10 to 20 points depending on what the specific disorder was. Autism is almost closer to 30 points off. So an actual autistic person would have to start to get to an IQ of 120 effective, would have to, on average, start somewhere about 150. Okay. Yeah, Steve or Nick, I can't remember who it was we were talking about prison populations, and aren't sociopaths super smart?
That was me.
Right. This is
I
what
was
we're
thinking
talking.
like 120 IQs. Yeah.
Well, there are 120 IQ sociopaths, but not that many, and most of those will never go to prison because there's too many ways to make to fuck people over in the corporate space. A 120 IQ sociopath is far more likely to be a CEO than he is to be in prison. Okay. So Sheldon Cooper is not a high IQ person. Sheldon Cooper is what an average or above average or a midwit thinks a high IQ person looks like. In part because from the midwit's perspective, well, anybody who argues like that must be autistic.
Yeah, and that's a ad hominem attack that a lot of people use against someone who's much more intelligent or more intelligent to belittle them, kind of bring them down to their level. Which, okay, and Plutarch is not mentioning a factor in here that he kind of alluded to. How do you determine if a person is a midwit or actually intelligent? Time.
Yep.
Time. Watch their behavior over time.
Yep.
And if they persist in quibbling over minutia or trying to catch people in errors or just trying to win every argument by their greater debating skills, I'm sorry, kind of puts them in that category. A more intelligent person will say, well, okay, I know you and I disagree. Let's have a discussion. Okay, we can have a debate, but I'm going to try and understand your point of view. You understand my point of view. We'll hash out some of the details, but even though I disagree with you, there's something, I have a belief, there's something in your viewpoint that's true that I should learn from you. But the midwit says there is nothing in your point of view that I can learn from you. Okay, just wait. Just say, this person seems smart. I'm not sure. I'll just keep watching. I'm going to learn from them all along. Yep. Now, what's their overall level of intelligence? I'm going to wait and let time tell.
Yep. It was implied throughout all of this that we're going to have to spend a lot of time doing it and figuring this out. And we are. And, we haven't talked too much about. Go ahead.
Low time preference in action.
Exactly. A low time preference means that you're willing to wait a while to learn something. That's just part of it. We haven't talked too much about the effect of, midwits on content creation, but it hits there too. This is a tweet. I didn't write this. I don't know this guy. This is just a guy noticing. I'll read it out for you. It's pretty short. Nobody with an IQ over 130 has algorithmic pull. Their posts are too niche. Nobody understands them. They never go viral, and they just don't have it and never will. The cutoff is 3K followers. If you have more than that, you're a midwit.
That's a generalization, but yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Right. He's also kind of giving you a metric for determining it's not an accurate metric. There are, like, for example, I can say Eric S. Raymond and Devin Erickson have way more than 3K followers, and they are not midwits. Okay.
Correct.
Okay. So, but remember, the midwit mafia are the gatekeepers of the institutions. That includes YouTube and content creation. It's all of it. And when I say institutions, I mean all of them.
I mean, I had to think about that before I decided if I agreed or disagreed. But in general, the midwits get the big following. You move up from there, you'll get a much more limited following. Now, if you're in a certain niche and you're highly intelligent, yes, you can still gain a big following. But
That's kind of what ESR did.
Okay, there's some financial guys I listen to. Alex Craner, Tom Luongo. Pretty big names in the financial area among geopolitics and whatnot. But the average person doesn't know them. They have a big following. And I think they're pretty smart guys. I don't agree with everything they say. Maybe even, well, most of it I say, but not all of it. But they're nowhere near the size of Tucker Carlson.
Tucker's a midwit, by the way.
Tim Pool?
Midwit.
Oh, gee. Uh-huh. You want a big following, you got to be closer to the middle. Okay, you can still gain a relatively big following if you're at the upper end. I don't care if you agree if those guys are up there or not. My point is, yeah, you can still have a sizable following in the thousands of people, but it's not going to be in the hundreds of thousands or millions.
So I have one final tweet here to share, and this is from Devin Erickson. And he's writing about, he's actually responding to Homath. Those two actually go at it sometimes on Twitter. It's kind of fun. Because Homath is another guy with a very high IQ, and sometimes they cross swords, and it can be really fun to watch. And Homath is talking about, here, I'll click through. He's talking about the dumbest people are about 110 IQ. He even goes so far as to say 110 is dumber than 90. This is because you can make them believe anything by telling them that smart people believe it. And this is absolutely true. I've watched it many times. There's tons of examples. We were talking earlier about how the midwits group together and they believe things as a group. Okay. Where was I? This is because this painting is, and he's talking about this thing down here. He's talking about paintings. This painting is a marvel of emotional expression. Look at the brushstrokes and the color and the palette. What a master. Bro literally spilled paint. You can't convince a 90 IQ that they see something here. It's just paint splatters. But a midwit, they're so starving to be seen as exceptional that they'll lie about what they see. They'll call men women. They'll eat shit. They'll say things like human beings have been walking wrong, and anything to sound like they know something you don't. But actually intelligent people see the midwits for what they are, because we know things when we know things. I look at a painting and I don't see brushstrokes. I don't see emotions. I don't see anything but splatters. And I know that. And I know what I know, and I know what I don't know. A midwit thinks he knows things he doesn't actually know. He trusts the experts to know for him. All you have to do is say the experts scienced that you eat shit now, and they'll do it just to look smart to other midwits. And then he goes on to talk about something else. And then Devin comes in. He says, people with IQs of 110 to 115 are even more dangerous in large groups. They come up with utopian schemes that are incompatible with human instinct or the principles of economics or even the laws of thermodynamics. And then they try to proselytize them, talking about how great it would be if everyone would just. But everyone will not just. And often it would be a disaster if they did. Midwits are smart enough to come up with grand plans, but too dumb to ever gain a full appreciation of just how complicated and unpredictable large-scale systems are. Steve, can you tell that Devin was a software engineer before he got into writing. Uh, they fail to approach them with the proper caution and never seem willing to test their ideas on a small scale before trying to implement them on a larger one. They are college-aged English and theater majors who have grandiose opinions about how all of human societies in all of human history have been wrong, but they are unwilling to test their new theory by using it to run, say, a small sandwich shop before voting for Bernie Sanders to implement it across the richest and most powerful nation on earth. That is a high. This is what high IQ writing looks like.
Yeah.
This is why I wanted to bring it up.
Let me summarize. If you implement their ideas, it will lead to unintended consequences. Because they can't even go to first order derivatives or consequences.
Correct. Yes.
Much less second order consequences. It's all utopia. And it's all going to work out in the land of unicorns, and these unicorns, did you know that when they poop, it's rainbow Skittles?
Well, folks, that is everything I have. We made it through all the slides, all the tweets that I wanted to go through. I hope that those of you watching I have been able to arm you with a little bit of how to identify the midwits. And I ask that you consider my plea to start rejecting the midwits. They have created the world you live in and all of its multivariate problems. But because they created those problems, they will not be able to solve them, which means it is time for us to stop listening to them. Thank you for attending my TED Talk.
Hey, you know what? Got my note card. Some things I wrote down on both sides. I forgot to talk about them. I think it might be the subject of a future show. Kind of related to this. Well, I mean, everything we do is kind of related to something that was done before. And I've come up with 3 necessary concepts for civilization and society.
Ooh, I like this.
It relates to IQ. How do you distill everything that's going on down to critical concepts? And if you pull out one or all 3 of these concepts, shit won't work. What do you think? Is this a good thing to talk about in the future?
I think so, but I'm a nerd, so I don't know, Nick.
So
what do you think?
without these 3 necessary connected premises, nothing shit flows. Shit follows.
Right. Okay, so we'll get to it. We will get to it. But my point is, you know, when the 3 of us get together and we start thinking about things or preparing for the stream and thinking about preparing for it, we come up with ideas. So I don't think we're going to be ever at a loss to do a stream. And the other thing is there's 3 of us. So that really cuts the workload down. I couldn't do a great stream every week.
I couldn't.
It's just too much. But I love participating and then coming up with something and then getting the direct feedback from the other 2 co-hosts and helping because they just jump on board. And we never quite know where it's going, but it's always fun.
Well, and I also want to thank our audience quite a bit. I mean, in this show, I was not expecting you guys to show up like you did. I'll be honest. I was thinking, oh yeah, this is going to be a real dry one. You know, I've literally got a PowerPoint ready, right? But no, you guys showed up and killed it in the comments over there. So, and thank you for sticking with us for 2.5 hours. There's a lot to get through. This is one of my streams that I view this as like a statement episode, right? Like there's something here that I want you guys to not just understand, but to do something with. And that was my goal. And hopefully you guys learned something, and maybe you'll even be able to take it out and use it in the real world. And if you do, then I have achieved my mission, and that is just, I love it. Wonderful.
Well, this subject is not politically correct.
Yeah, not even a little.
Oh well. Oh well.
But you know, it's fun to talk about things that you're not allowed to talk about. Because you learn something, and there's, who would want us to not talk about certain things? What mafia would not want us to do that, Plutarch?
Oh, the Midwit Mafia.
Oh, yeah.
The Bar Association.
Yeah. The Bar Association, the colleges, they really don't want you talking. But a lot of people think that the government did most of the suppression of IQ. No, it was the colleges that were the leading institution on suppressing IQ research and whatnot. The government did ban using IQ tests in private sector hiring, although the military uses an IQ test called the ASVAB, ASVAB. And the reason for that is, by law, the military is not allowed to draft or recruit anybody with an IQ lower than 82. There are simply no jobs in the military that can be taught to somebody with an IQ lower than that. So, but the ban on IQ in private sector was done by executive order. So about 2 months ago, Trump actually undid it. You can actually now give IQ tests to prospective employees, prospective hires.
So there's a historical aspect to this. I believe, and I've been told, but I'm not an expert, that the Frankfurt School, which were European guys, psychologists, whatnot, moved to the US. They basically took over Columbia University.
Chicago as well.
That was their
Sure.
Chicago. But Columbia specifically educated a lot of PhD that went out to other colleges. And that, if you trace back our public education system, a lot of the philosophies and beliefs and practices can actually be tracked back to Columbia University in New York City. And it just pervaded out from there and kind of dominated everything. That wasn't the government doing it.
Nope.
Now, you can say I'm wrong. Okay, whatever. It's not important to my belief system, but
Well,
I do believe that.
the interesting thing is the government ban came long after the systematic suppression of it started in the universities, to the point where I would suspect that the people pushing the ban in the government came from the university system. And we know how many degreed people there are in the federal government at this point. So, it's not to say the government in this case is complicit, but it is not the primary driver. The primary driver of this was the university system. Alex, good to see you in the chat. Have fun. Yeah, we are winding down and kind of shooting the shit over here.
Yep.
But that's we made it through everything. It was a bit of a race, but that was a lot of fun, and I love talking about these kinds of topics. But the other thing I would say is take this information and apply it rigorously. Okay, not just to the people you don't like. Say you don't like the government. Okay, I'm going to apply this to the government. Okay, that's fine. That's good. Apply it to the colleges. You don't like the media. Yeah, okay, apply it to them. But more importantly, apply this to the people you get your information from. Okay? Because those are the ones who actually influence you. It's actually more important that you apply this to the people you like than it is to apply it to the people you don't like. So, are there any final thoughts out there?
No, I got something for next week though. If nobody else has any final thoughts, so. Next
Okay,
week,
Nick, what are you doing next week?
I was inspired by, I don't know what episode it was, but he mentioned queen bees in the manosphere or red pill. He was talking about these queen bees back then in the blogosphere and all that. So I was like, what are traits? What are observations we can make? What's the psychology or makeup of the queen bees and the manosphere and red pill? So that'll be next week. We're gonna try to not mention names, but understand ideas and behaviors.
Okay, let me give you my thoughts on that. It's like a beauty pageant. Queen bees are chosen. So there's always more than one woman vying for the title, the beauty queen. And it's always men that select the winner. And what kind of man? Tune in and find out.
All right. That's next week then. Well, if you guys enjoyed, drop us a like. I guess that might matter to YouTube. If you know somebody who needs to hear this, we had a new first-time chatter show up, and he said, my IQ says I'm 134, but I feel really dumb. If you know somebody like that, send this video to them. That feeling is a combination of Dunning-Kruger and the system gaslighting them, and they need to hear this message. It will absolutely, you can absolutely help somebody out with their own mental state. And so if you know somebody who's like that, please share this video with them. If you want to hear more, if you want to hear what Nick's got on schedule for next week, leave us a subscribe. And with that, we will see you all in 7 days.
There was a firefight! Son of a bitch!